Hey there folks, this is GreenyXI welcoming you right back to Let's Play Umineko. This is episode 126. In the last episode we started the tea party for Arc 7 and we've been given the theory of all the adults figuring out the riddle together. You know, that's a rare concept without arguing too much. They found the treasure, they found Beatrice, they found out there's a bomb that can blow up the, pretty much the entire island, I think. Or maybe except for the Corridorian. And now we're going to see where it goes from there. Gold is the only physical embodiment of magic that can exist in the human world. Since ancient times, even a small bit of it could control men with its magic. In that case, how much magic power would dwell in it? If it was piled up in a mountain so high, you'd have to look up to see the top? Don't be stupid, we'll split it evenly. Isn't that the obvious solution? Didn't we say that half this pile would belong to me, and the other half would be split between the four of us? The yells of the humans dancing around the gold reverberated throughout the underground room. Of course they'd argue over it. In front of the pile of gold, they were arguing about how it should be split. Did you solve the riddle all by yourself, Nissan? You didn't, right? The four of us siblings solved it together. Of course, we'll split it in 4 equal parts. Coward. Weren't you the ones who first made that proposal about the gold's distribution? How can you disregard that so easily? You really think you're in a position to bargain? When you're the ones hiding Dad's death? Yeah. You've been swindling us this whole time, treating Father's wealth as if it were your own. All you need to do is split the gold evenly, and we'll drop all the rest, including that particular issue. It sounds very fair to me. Very well, if you insist, go ahead and try splitting it 4 ways. Let's divide this pile up right now, and you can all take all your shares home. I hope you have pockets that can hold 2.5 tons of ingots. It seems you've all been driven mad by the gold and lost all ability to make rational judgments. What do you mean by that, Kraus Nissan? Look at this ingot. As you can see, there are no official markings, just Father's crest. How do you intend to turn unmarked gold like this into cash? Well, have you finally figured it out? This pile of gold may be worth 20 billion yen. However, that's only if you can trade it for cash. Are any of you capable of exchanging this many unmarked, unidentified ingots for cash at the proper rates? If it was a necklace or a ring, exchanging it for cash would have been a manageable problem. However, doing that for several tons of unmarked gold that couldn't be made public would be impossible for any normal person. However, Kraus could do it. Among the several business friends that remained from Kinzo's generation, there were some who had black market ties and a lot of financial power. The billion yen tied to the cash card that the Golden Witch had held out a second ago had already been turned to cash thanks to one of Kinzo's connections. However, none of the other siblings had any connections like that. They would have to rely on Kraus to get cash for the gold. Now you're finally seeing it. I apologise for hiding all those things about Father. However, you're in no position to take advantage of that weakness. You really think you have such an advantage just because of something like that? What do you intend to do with that gun? Please, you're scaring us. Eva was gripping the gun so hard it looked like it might snap. The 4 guns that the witch had placed in this room were now in the hands of the relatives. Just as the gold had led their hearts astray, it seemed these guns had the magical power to turn their hearts to violence. Finally, a scuffle arose between Eva and Kraus. Off to the side, Natsui started arguing with Rudolph and his wife, and the grand underground VIP room was filled with thundering jeers. After being forced to watch this scene for so long, Angie's face was starting to contort with pain. It was only natural after being shown this abusive argument between her parents and her other relatives. What on earth? It was painful for Leon too. Leon would have tried to intervene and calm them, if that had been possible. The gold isn't going anywhere, right? If you just slow down and think, you'll be able to resolve this. Going by what Eva and the others said, it's clear that they'll need a lot of money before the end of the year. However, the billion yen cash card should be more than enough to pay for that. That would handle their emergency expenses, so they could then convert the gold to cash at their leisure and just split it amongst themselves. Sure, maybe Kraus was the only one capable of converting the gold. That might give him an advantage over the other siblings. However, this gold couldn't be dealt with by open means. In addition to attracting public attention, it would also lead to various legal problems. It was better for this secret money to remain secret. If they wanted to get the largest portions possible, then they should all agree not to tell anyone about this gold. In other words, to maximise their profits, they would all need to make a gentleman's agreement to keep this secret. Kraus did have a slight advantage. However, it was possible for the other relatives to refuse to cooperate and tell the world about the gold. And then, there was also the concealment of Kinzo's death to consider. Kraus was an investor. He needed not only financial clout, but also a certain degree of public confidence in him. His advantage isn't big enough for him to act so overbearing. The mountain of gold has made everyone lose their ability to think rationally. This isn't an argument between adults. It's just a fight between kids. What's so fun about showing us this? Or is this the game of some new witch? Are they watching us suffer from somewhere and laughing? By now, even I didn't have a clue who was showing this to us, or for what reason. At the very least, this new tale didn't seem to be overflowing with affection. At first, I thought it was a tale of a beautiful world, where no crime occurred and Claire's regrets had vanished. But something's different. This tale is clearly filled with ill will towards us. I'm sure of that much now, but I don't have a clue who would want to show us this. Suddenly, an explosion rang out. I didn't think it was the sound of gunfire. After all, people living a normal life never hear that kind of sound. Who's dead? Drip, drip, drip. It was the sound of thick raindrops hitting the floor. There was no rain in this underground room. It was blood dripping down from Natsui's right eye. Oh, the bullet had gone in through her right eye, towards the back of her head. Natsui? It's your fault for jumping at me. The gun, which fell from Eva's grasp, landed on the floor with a hard metallic clang. As though in response to that sound, Natsui's head slowly turned to face the ceiling. Natsui. Natsui. Natsui flopped backwards. When the back of her head hit the floor, a red splash spread out beneath it, forming a single flower to adorn her dead face. Natsui, Nissan? Why did you shoot her? Why, Eva? Eva! Kraus howled, raised his gun, and ran at Eva. At the same time, Hideyoshi leapt between them. A scuffle broke out between the two men. How could you? Natsui. Kraus, Nissan, you've got it wrong. You've got it all wrong. It was just an accident. Eva, how could you? I'll kill you. I'll kill you. I didn't shoot. I didn't. Even though I told her to stop, she just jumped at me. Kraus, who had just seen his wife killed before his eyes, had lost all traces of rationality in his expression. He was so furious that, if he had knocked Hideyoshi aside and jumped at Eva, he might have torn her throat out. Why did you kill her? Why? Eva. It was an accident. An accident. Calm down, Kraus, Nissan. Ow, ow. Another explosion rang out. Hideyoshi's face was covered with blood. The two of them had been fighting over the gun Kraus held, trying to push it away from themselves. When the barrel had turned to point at Kraus's chin, the sneering, formless Reaper, master of the Room of Gold, had swung its scythe once more. A line of blood trickled from Kraus's mouth. Just that couple gone. The two fell down, with Kraus's body on top of Hideyoshi. Letting out a cowardly cry, Hideyoshi backed away before Kraus's body could cover him. Dear, I didn't do anything. Kraus Nissan's finger just got caught on the trigger. It's an accident. An accident, I tell you. That's right, an accident. This was all an accident. As the pair of them broke down sobbing and repeatedly claiming that it was all an accident, Rosa and the others were unable to say a thing. The witch also watched this scene, but said nothing, and appeared to be completely disinterested. It was no fault. It was just an accident. You saw right? Right? You saw that, didn't you, Rosa? Kraus Nissan and Natsui Nissan both let their emotions get a hold of them and charged at us. Who knows? I couldn't say either way. Stupid Rosa. You saw, didn't you? You saw it from right there, so you must know. I'm sorry. I can't tell if it happened by accident, or if you killed them and tried to make it look like an accident. Rosa, you. Rudolph-kun, you saw. You know what happened, right? Right? Sorry, but I agree with Rosa. We can't tell if it was an accident or intentional. Rosa's and Rudolph's gazes looked very cold and indifferent to Eva and her husband. What are we going to do? They were shot to death. Saying it was a simple accident won't convince anyone. The forest. We'll say they went to the forest and went missing. That will buy us some time. That won't get us off the hook, right? The police will just search the whole forest. Anyway, why would those two go off into an uncultivated forest like that? It looks suspicious from the start. There's no way we'll get away with it. It'll be okay. If we hide the corpses here, no one will be able to find them. If we all play dumb, it'll work. It won't. There's no way you can fool the police. If the two of them disappeared during a family conference where we were arguing over the inheritance problem, the police won't just put it down as a case of missing persons. I just had an idea. Though Eva had been scratching at her head, overcome with emotion, her arms suddenly fell as though their strings had been cut. What did you think of? An accident. We just need to make it look like an accident. Idiot. What kind of accident? There are clear gunshot wounds on both corpses, right? Even if we burn them to make it look like they were caught in a fire, it'll still be obvious that they were killed by guns. A fire? That's not good enough. We need more. An explosion? A much more massive accident. Massive accident. Eva slowly walked forward, tapped it, and spoke. An explosion accident. We just need the sort of accident that will leave no traces of their corpses. As she played with the switch that would cause an automatic explosion at midnight, Eva spun around to look at them, a crazed expression on her face. It was truly a mad flash of inspiration. If they flipped the switch to the right and waited for midnight, the 900 tons of explosives would wipe out the mansion without a trace. There wouldn't even be anything left of the corpses. There certainly wouldn't be any way to tell that they had died by gunshot wounds before the explosion. It's an unshakable fact that this island is still filled with explosives from the war. Then by coincidence, tomorrow night, something will set it off by chance and the whole thing will explode. Yes, it'll be an accident. An explosion accident. What do you say? There's no way the police will find out the truth. This way, we can pull it off. We can hide the manner of their deaths. That's crazy. Shaking, Hideyoshi frantically searched for a counter-argument, hoping to shut down Eva's mad idea. But he couldn't find one. If they blew everything up, the facts would all be muddled. They could make it look as though Kraus and Natsui had died in an explosion accident. Explosive? It's perfect, just perfect. After all, it was an accident that they died anyway. We're just changing the type of accident. Isn't that right? We can think up any story we want. By chance, the rest of us will happen to be in the hidden mansion tomorrow night. Then, when the explosion accident occurs, we'll be lucky enough to survive. That story should work. Just what sort of story are you planning on? What kind of story could explain how the two of them alone remained here, while the rest of us conveniently went to the hidden mansion and managed to escape? That's what we've got to think up now, stupid Rosa. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as we all agree to it. I'll think of something. Balding, come in. I'm thinking. You all think too. Someone think of something. Calm down, Eva. I'll think about it, and so will everyone else. We'll definitely think of something, and it'll all work out. We'll share the burden. You won't have to carry it all yourself. It'll all be okay. It will. I know we'll think of a good excuse. What kind of excuse? We took the kids and all the servants to go exploring an underground passageway, leaving just the two of them behind. And the rest of us all decided to spend the night in the hidden mansion. How could any excuse work? It's insane. And thinking up that insane thing is our job. Why are you acting like this has nothing to do with you? You think of something too. Nissan, let me ask you a question. If you blow up the island, what will happen to this gold? Well, we've finally gotten our hands on 20 billion yen of gold, and you want to blow it all away? We can just carry it away. Yeah, that's right. The explosion will happen tomorrow at midnight. We have a full day. If we all carry it together, we might... You realise there's 10 tons of it, right? Just how much do you think our small group can carry back and forth across this long underground passage that goes all the way across the island? You're being absurd. Here. We have this card, right? The card worth 1 billion yen, the one that woman gave us. We'll just carry as much gold as we can. We have the card with 1 billion yen on top of that. If we split that 3 ways, we'll have more than 300 million each. That should be enough for all of our purposes. I don't like it. You don't like what? We have a mountain worth 20 billion yen right here. Why should we be satisfied with just 300 million each? Rosa! Eva's face twisted in anguish and was met by Rosa's look of cold unconcern. If we gave Kraus Nissan this share, we'd each have a share of 5 billion. Subtract the 300 million from the card and the rest of my share is 4.7 billion. If you agree to pay that much to me, then you can do whatever you want with this mountain of gold. What do you think you're saying? So you don't intend to cooperate? Nissan, please calm down and listen. This plan will let both of us leave with a maximum amount of money. What? I want you to go to the police and turn yourself in, admitting that you got into a scuffle and the gun went off. You're crazy. I don't want to go to the police. Of course, we don't want to say that the crime happened here. The police would find the gold. Yes, how about the rose garden? It's pouring rain now, so the police probably won't find any contradictions at the crime scene. I'll let you think of an excuse for why you and Nissan started fighting while you were holding guns in the rainy rose garden. Please, don't try to get us and our shares involved just because you want to hide your own crime. Rosa. It's not so bad, right? After all, it's not like they'll keep you in jail for several decades. It was an accident, right? You'll be able to get out after just a few years. When you've paid for your sins and come back, then you can do whatever you want with your 5 billion. No, I'd never do that. What would happen if we were arrested? What would happen to my husband's company? Who cares about the company? With 5 billion yen, working any longer would just be a waste of time, right? Rosa had never intended to go along with Eva's proposal. If it was a question of maximising each person's portion, no one had anything to gain from an explosion accident. An explosion would conceal Kraus and Natsui's deaths. It would serve no further purpose. From Rosa's perspective, the ideal outcome would be for them to confess their crimes, without any unnecessary tricks. All she wanted was to change the crime scene from here to a different place. However, Eva didn't want to be arrested. She didn't like having her shares shrink from 5 billion to 300 million, but even that was more than enough to cover the amount she had been trying to wring out of Kraus in the first place. She wanted to hide what had happened here, even if it meant blowing away 4.7 billion yen. What would happen if they were arrested? The life, the company, the trust that Eva had worked so long to build. The things that couldn't be bought back with money. So she wanted to hide Kraus and Natsui's dreams, even if it meant blowing up all 4.7 billion yen worth of her gold. But from Rosa's perspective, that was just irrational nonsense. Rosa. What do you think you're doing with that gun, Nissan? You're gonna have me die in the explosion too? That'll make finding an excuse even harder. In fact, it'll make it harder to explain away the other 2 deaths as accidents too. 3 whole deaths means it'll be quite a large-scale crime. It'll probably get you the death penalty, or life in prison if you're lucky. Even in the best case, you'll probably be put away for more than a decade, right? Turn yourself in. If you do, this will be no more than a pair of unfortunate accidents. Of course, your jail term won't be too terrible either. Don't worry about George-kun. We'll take good care of him. And we'll make sure that your entire share of 5 billion yen is waiting for you when you get back. Eva ground her teeth and glared. The Rosa she knew should have been shaking and obeying her commands. And yet, Rosa wasn't scared. Her blank expression, no, that faint smile, was one that Eva had never seen before. Put the gun down, Nissan. Once you calm down, you'll see that my plan's the best one. Jail isn't so bad, right? Think of it as a financial strategy. Even if they put you in for 10 years, there'll be 5 billion waiting for you when you get out. That's like working for a 5 million yen salary, right? If you think of it that way, won't you enjoy your job more? Liar. You just want to steal my share away while I'm in there. Like your man did to you. He has nothing to do with this, okay? I won't run away. I'd never run away with someone's money. Oh, I'll never do it. Rosa's once frigid face was filled with rage. The 2 howling people pointed their guns at each other, shouting insults. You could smell the gold room's reaper slinking closer. The smell of gunpowder, the explosive smell of death, filled the room. Drip. A bubble of blood dripped from Rosa's mouth. Then she fell over lifelessly, like a mannequin someone had pushed over. Eva? It wasn't me. I swear I didn't even pull the trigger. Uh-huh. Oh. The round in the chamber of your gun was spent when you fired at Natsui-san, right? You never reloaded, so even if you pull the trigger, that gun won't kill anyone. Have no fear. As Kirie said this, she manoeuvred the lever action with a practiced hand, and a smoke-smelling shell casing was ejected. It hit the floor with a small metallic sound. That tiny sound had a disturbing ring to it. Rosa-san's analysis was a little naive. She has no idea how difficult it would be to exchange as many unmarked gold ingots for money. Back in Dad's day, even just showing this gold to get funding was enough to create the massive rumour called the Ashuramaya Legend of the Gold. Exchanging this for cash is impossible. A pile of gold you can't use is no better than a pile of crap. 10 tons of gold were exchanged for cash on the black market, and the successor and his wife died mysterious deaths. Expecting that to go unnoticed is what's really unbelievable. We don't want to get the police involved. We'll blow up this island and destroy all the evidence. If it's tough parting with the gold, feel free to grab as much as you can hold. The billion yen on the cash card's more than enough. In other words, Eva Nissan was right. I'm glad. It looks like we're on the same page. If the police get involved, who knows what might happen. It's the same with cashing in the gold. I'm sure that would have tripped us up some way, so we had no choice. The 1 billion that woman over there exchanged for cash is the only money we'll be able to get our hands on. And even splitting that billion, it'll be more than enough for what we need. On top of that, now that Rosa is dead, our shares have increased even more. We can each leave this island with 500 million. Exactly. As long as we don't let our greedy desire to cash in the gold control us. We can pretend that everything that occurred on this island never happened. We have a way to do that right here. By that point, neither deaths from accidental discharges nor shooting murders meant anything on this island. Everything would be erased equally by the explosion accident. No matter what happened between now and midnight the next day, everything would be rewritten. And you told me to turn myself in? Stupid Rosa. You weren't satisfied with just 300 million. This is what you get for being too greedy. You brought this upon yourself. But Kirie-san, there was no need to shoot her, right? Even Rosa-san would have figured it out if you just told her. I did need to shoot her. After all, Rosa-san's the only one who didn't fire her gun. What's that matter? The guns lying at your feet are Kraus Nissan's and Eva Nissan's. Both of those have been fired. However, Rosa-san's gun can shoot if you just pull the trigger. It's hard to reload one of these if you aren't used to a lever action. An amateur would have some trouble pulling it off. Kirie-san, what are you talking about? You. I finally realised what Kirie meant. Rosa had the only gun that could still fire, so I shot her first. Oh, how foolish we were. Why didn't we realise sooner? Even though we knew there's a mechanism for erasing everything that happens on this island, Eva and Hideyoshi hurried to pick up the guns that lay at their feet. At the same time, fire spat from Kirie's gun once more. Hideyoshi let out a short scream, clutched at his chest, fell over face down. Dear? Dear? Why is this? Eva fiddled with the lever action, trying to imitate something she vaguely remembered from a western movie. But something seemed to be caught, and the still open lever didn't budge. See? It's pretty hard. You. Kirie finished reloading with a fluid motion. The way she held it was as innocent and sure as a kid playing with a squirt gun. Oh shit, it's only Rudolph and Kirie left now, isn't it? With another heartless cry of gunfire, the puppet called Eva slumped down to the floor, as though its strings had been cut. Rudolph-san, the billion yen card. Sure. The cash card with a billion yen, which Eva had just grabbed from the witch. That loan was worth more than enough. The 20 billion yen pile of gold had skewed everyone's sense of value. Just a few million yen's enough for people to kill over. And this was a billion yen. Rosa-san, those were some famous last words there. Just 300 million? You were too greedy. No kidding. Ah, lucky me. I don't have to fish through a corpse. As Rudolph walked up to Eva's body, he found the card lying beside it and picked it up. So this flimsy little card is worth a billion yen. Sticking with the company would be a waste of time. So do we close up shop and spend the rest of our lives in some southern country? I'm sure you'd get bored right away. Besides, I like seeing you get all worried about some problem, then leap around like a little kid when you finally overcome it. Sure you do. Thank you, Miss Golden Witch. Rudolph-san and I will make good use of this billion. Kraus-Nissan promised to treat you in a gentlemanly fashion, but I haven't made any such promise. Sad the end of Beatrice. She pulled the trigger without a trace of mercy. When the ringing of the gunfire died down, blood trickled from the witch's mouth, and she fell over onto the bed. Once again, Kyria ejected the used shell casing. The full metal sounds of used shells hidden in the floor seemed to symbolize the fact that Rudolph and his wife now possessed all shares of the gold. All of them were really slow-witted. From the moment they heard about the bomb, they should have known that they wouldn't be leaving this island as a big, happy family. Sorry about this, Aniki, Rosa. Well, that's life for you. Give me a break, okay? Aniki and Aniki got into a fight. Rosa gets dragged in. And I'm the one who picks up the pieces. Just like it's always been, right? It wasn't as though Rudolph and Kyrie had planned to kill everyone and take everything for themselves from the start. Kyrie had quickly realised, by the length of the barrel of the gun in her hands, that it would probably hold 5 rounds at a time. Yes. Kyrie and Rudolph were both very familiar with this gun. Rudolph, whose interest in guns from old westerns came from his father, owned a shotgun of the same model. Even Kyrie had earned the qualifications to use that gun, becoming familiar enough with it that they could go shooting together for fun. Including the witch, there had been 8 people there. 6 people besides the 2 of them. Each gun held 5 rounds. That was 1 short. They didn't have enough to kill everyone. To be honest, it really surprised me when they got into a fight and one of the guns went off. That coincidental accident had provided the missing bullet. It wasn't the second shot. The very first shot, which had accidentally killed Natsui, had guaranteed that this massacre would happen. In this smoke and corpse-filled room of gold, the 2 of them wore easygoing smiles, hardly any different from those they usually wore. What do we do now? Rudolph picked up Rosa's gun. Then he fired a test shot at the wall and ejected the old shell with a smooth motion like Kyrie's. Kyrie went to the box of bullets on the table, casually picked up a few, and loaded them one after another into her gun. Set the bomb switch to on. Then we just need to wait 24 hours. Everyone's gonna run wild when morning comes and they can't find us. Then we just need to make sure they don't. Guess so. What about Battler? He's your son, not mine. Oh shit. Don't say that. Look how attached he is to you. He really respects you. And think of a clever way to trick him. I'll worry about Angie. You worry about Battler-kun. Fair enough? Sure. I'm kind to my own children. But it's a real pain to be nice to a Sumo-san's kid. You understand, I hope? Cold bitch? Kirie's voice had grown cold. She had acted warmly towards Battler because that had been the adult thing to do. He was Rudolph's son, so she tried to avoid being hostile, nothing more. But underneath, he was the son of a Sumo, a woman Kyrie still hated even though she were dead. Now that she had given birth to Angie and finally built up a new family, was Battler's return really such a happy thing for her? Get yourself ready. Now that we've come this far, we can only go for the billion yen or die trying. If you can't convince Battler-kun, I'm sorry, but I won't be taking any chances. No need to threaten me. I'll take care of it. I'll find a good story to tell him. Make sure you do. I know Angie will be very sad if she's forced to hear about Battler-kun dying in an accident. Sure. How do we start? We have nothing to gain by waiting for morning. Now's the best time. Oh, wonderful. Not even time for a break. Aha! We're going to keep going. Do another half like we did for the last episode. Why not? A test? What's this supposed to be? At this time of night? Starting now? Battler yelled wildly into the receiver. When he said at this time of night, George and Jessica turned to look. According to the clock, it was past midnight. It might be a normal time to be told to brush their teeth and go to bed, but you couldn't understand what their test was all about. This is where it goes into that arc where they all have to do their individual tests, is it? Okay, I'll hand it over. Here, George Aniki. It's my dad. Hello, this is George speaking. Ah, hey George-kun. Sorry to call so late. You weren't sleeping already, were you? You're all still up chatting away? Pretty much. Maybe a chance sleeping. Oh, it looks like she just woke up. So what did you want to talk about? Batlokun said something about a test. Ah, yeah. That can be such a pain sometimes. He suddenly came down from his room. A bunch of stuff happened, and by the end he was talking about which grandchild would make the best successor. But isn't Uncle Kraus the successor? He says the four of us aren't up to the job. So he's going to skip us adults and choose one of you grandkids instead. It's all so sudden. We're really freaking out here. Aniki and the others are all arguing about it across the room. I bet you can hear Aniki shrieking in the background, huh? Is that so? That's what Grandfather says. Then it's no way around it, I guess. In that case, what should we do? He says he wants to call you out one by one, starting with Jessica-chan. Wait a sec. Okay, you still there? Looks like you and Jessica-chan will be the first up to bat. He wants Jessica-chan to go to the parlour in the mansion. You're supposed to go out in front of the chapel. It's so sudden, I hardly feel ready. What sort of test is it? Looks like Dad made some kind of crazy quiz. Some weird questions about what it means to be the head. Of course, a few things about this seemed off to George. However, Kinzo was famous for doing radical things on a whim. Even his strange test seemed plausible once he heard that it was a sudden idea of Kinzo's. But even so, if he wanted to test them one by one, why wouldn't he call them out one by one? They could have just had everyone wait in some reception room to be called in one at a time. Why would two people be called to different places at the same time? The plan didn't seem to make sense, and George felt he was missing something. Still, I wonder why he wanted to meet you in front of the chapel of all places. He expects a lot from you. I think he wants to talk to you alone, not sure what about. Grandfather wants to talk to me. I wonder what he's got to say. I mean, you're the most talented of all his grandkids. He's probably got something to tell you in particular, right? Anyway, that's what he says. Get over here right away. I'm supposed to go to the chapel too, so let's get this over with, or we're both going to catch colds. I see. Okay. Then I'll head towards the front of the chapel, and Jessica-chan will go to the parlour. Sure. I'll see you in a bit then. What sort of test or private conversation could Kinzo possibly want to have at this time of night? Then again, it's a well-known fact that Kinzo doesn't have long to live. It wouldn't be so strange if they wanted to give some sort of will to each of his descendants individually. Inside George's mind, the faint feeling that something was wrong was replaced by a desire to meet Kinzo directly and hear about this in more detail. George set down the receiver and quickly explained to the others. It's as you heard. Grandfather says he wants to give us all some kind of test. Oh? A test? After hiding in his study all these years, he suddenly decides to give us a test this late at night? Damn that old geezer. What's he thinking? It seems our parents feel the same way. It sounds as though they're very worked up about it. Well, I doubt getting worked up about it will change Grandfather's mind. Exactly. We might as well accept it. It's Grandfather's order, after all. Let's obey it. To start, Jessica-chan and I are being called out. I'm going to the chapel. Jessica-chan is supposed to go to the parlour in the mansion. What about Maria and me? I think they'll contact you later. Wait here. Ooh, a midnight test. What could it be? What kind of test is it? A quiz? A puzzle? I'm really good at wolves and sheep puzzles. Oh. Maria, who is now fully awake, seemed to be very excited about this unexpected midnight test. Then we'll just hang out here. Yes. Okay, I'm going. It sounds like they're already waiting for us. So he's making one of his grandkids the successor. Sounds great to me. Now I can let one of you guys deal with it. I'm gonna become the successor. I wanna do it. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Having Maria as the successor wouldn't be so bad. Bye. See you later. So it's actually going to explain this bit away, is it? Rudolph put on the receiver and stood up. Okay. Guess I'm going to the spot in front of the chapel. It's damn cold out there. Goda-san, have some coffee waiting for me when I get back, will you? Next to Rudolph, Goda was lying face up. His face was covered by a crossword puzzle book. However, its pages were stained with blood, and you didn't need to move the book to imagine how he had met his pitiful end. How was it? A nice script, don't you think? Yeah. We should be thanking Dad. If we just say it was him being fickle, no one's gonna doubt us. Then let's split up. I'll take care of Jessica-chan. You take care of George-kun. You got it. Let's get this over with quickly, so we can relax and have some coffee. There won't be any problems, yes? No sudden pangs of conscience? Kyrie smiled coldly. It probably would have been safer to call them out one by one and finish them off together. However, Kyrie had chosen to have her husband work separately. She wanted to measure Rudolph's resolve. If she was the only one who got her hands dirty and Rudolph just watched, his heart wouldn't be as dedicated to this venture. By having him dirty his own hands, she could make him truly determined to see this thing through. Kyrie understood this sort of mind game better than anyone else. Rudolph reflexively averted his gaze from the cold glint in her eyes, but then he just shrugged and answered her question. Of course, we have $1 billion yen riding on this. And I'm a man. I'm not going to miss a chance that will never come again in my lifetime. I expected no less of you, Rudolph-san. I love people who seize chances when they come. That's why I fell in love with you. Thanks. I'm glad. Rudolph-san? What? Stay like that, always, okay? What do you say? Always remain the same, Rudolph-san, I love. Okay? Of course. When have I ever let you down? We should be worrying more about what kind of champagne we'll use to toast our victory. I'll do that. Take care now. If you really treasure Battler-kun, don't kill George-kun in front of the chapel, okay? It'll be a pain if he finds the body. Yeah, I know. I'll lure him away somehow. We'll be outside and it's raining. Should be some way to do it. And you aren't a villain in some old western, got it? Don't grant any last requests or take down any final messages, okay? Kyrie lifted up her gun again and ran the lever to eject the casing from the round she had killed Goda with. Ah, back downstairs. Dear. Wah. Eva was holding Hideyoshi's body and crying. She hadn't been shot at all. The bullet had grazed her head and missed. Oh! She hadn't been playing dead. She really thought that she'd been shot. When Kirie's gun spat fire, Eva felt something fierce skim past her head, before feeling lightheaded and fainting. Then she had woken in the now silent room of the gold. The remains of her beloved husband lay beside her, as well as Kraus, Natsui, and Rosa's corpses. It was a room of death and piled up bodies. When she had cried all she could over Hideyoshi's body, she realized that she still had something she needed to do. George is in danger. George. They're trying to use the bomb to blow up everything, to bury this whole island with an explosion accident. Of course, as Eva had expected, the switch on the clock was set to the right, which meant that it was active. Eva moved to flip it to the left and stopped. That's right. As long as this switch points to the right, everything that happens will disappear in this night of illusions. Yes, this is an illusion. No matter what happens tonight, everything will become muddled and hidden away. They're probably going to kill everyone else. That has to be it, I'm sure of it. When she looked at the table with a box of bullets, she saw signs that they had roughly grabbed a bunch of bullets before leaving. Clearly showed that they planned to use that many bullets. I have to fight, if only to protect just the life of my precious son. The gun that I dropped when I was shot is stuck with the lever open. No matter how hard I pull, it won't open any further, and it won't close again. Apparently a bullet has gotten jammed, breaking it. It's just as Kyrie said. Loading a bullet is tough if you aren't used to it. Please, dear, lend me your strength. Lend me your strength so that I can protect George. In Hideyoshi's hand was Kraus's gun, which he had been trying to pick up. Eva took it, prayed to her husband one more time, and tugged on the lever handle. With a light metallic sound, the golden casing spun through the air and bounced off the ground. When she timidly tried to push the lever back, this time it returned to its original place without any resistance. There was another metallic clang. It was the sound of a new bullet being loaded. I figured it'd be something like this. Someone scheming to show me the game that had disgusted me most, just to mock me. In the game so far, various people have been suspected of being the culprit or an accomplice. The only difference now was that Rudolph and Kyrie were those suspects. However, to Angie, that was the most infuriating plot twist possible. Even Leon was full of painful thoughts. Solving the epitaph was supposed to be the only miracle that could lead to a game without a single victim. But ironically, the tragedy hadn't been averted even so. Does this mean we aren't allowed to have a future where we're all happy, returned from this island alive? even if the epitaph is miraculously solved before the crime occurs? A miracle certainly will not occur. Those words which I had heard in one of the fragments Berncastle had shown me raced through my mind. Berncastle-san, you showed me how wonderful my world was. I don't want to believe that you created this tale just to hurt Angie. By now, even I realize that you're the game master here. Please tell me, why are you showing us this game? Of course, no one answered Leon's muttered question. The game created to mock Angie continued emotionlessly, with more terrible twists that didn't betray anyone's expectations anymore. Show whatever terrible game you like. You're trying to say that this is one of the endless possibilities inside the cat box, right? Just do whatever you want. I won't let something like this get to me. Someday I'll find out the truth of what happened on October 5th, 1986. After meeting Kyrie in the parlour, Jessica was told that the test would be held in the dining hall, and she followed Kyrie there. And Kyrie, there's no one here. He'll be here soon. Sit over there. Jessica sat in the chair she had been offered, looking nervous and agitated. Kyrie was by far the calmer of the two. Kyrie closed the door behind her, revealing the gun that rested behind it. Jessica was facing the other way, so she saw nothing. Did you hear anything about this, Aunt Kyrie? Like what kind of test this is? Yes. It'll be over soon. I sure hope so. As she complained, Jessica turned her head around, and the tip of her nose bumped into cold metal. Huh? Shit, is Jessica gone? Uncle Rudolph? What are you doing? I guess shooting people in the back just isn't for me after all. Hey, that was dangerous. What on earth are you doing? Come on, why else would someone point a gun and pull the trigger? Rudolph reloaded rapidly and pulled the trigger again, without any sign of hesitation. As the sound of gunfire thundered through the rain, George grabbed at his side and fell to his knees. Oh, that's weird. I guess it really does shoot low. This gun's really got it bad. Somebody, help me. Uncle Rudolph is... George started stumbling away, still clutching at his side. His voice as he called for help was weak and thin. In comparison, Rudolph, who stood behind him, looked perfectly calm as he fiddled with his gun and checked his sights. It hurts. It hurts. Gah. It felt to George as though something had been gouged into his side. It was so painful that he could barely stand and walk. He leaned against the trunk of a tree. After he crouched down, trying to cover his wound, he was no longer able to stand back up. George didn't have a clue what was going on. However, he had felt as though something was wrong this whole time. Of course it was strange that he'd be called out alone to a place like this, at a time like this. And yet, how could he have known that something was wrong? After all, his own uncle had told him that his grandfather was asking him to join the family conference. How could he have suspected? Sorry about this, George-kun. It hurts, doesn't it? If I knew it'd come to this, it would have been kinder to blow out your brains from behind. I thought it'd be too cruel to finish you off before you knew what hit you, but it looks like I got it backwards. Why, Uncle Rudolph? Why would my kind uncle do this? Forget about this. By tomorrow night, all of it won't have happened. With a quick use of the lever handle, he loaded another bullet. The casing of the bullet that had pierced George's side fell heartlessly in front of him. Everyone's gonna die in a sudden, unfortunate accident. Until that moment, we'll all be a big happy family. That's how it's gonna be. So don't worry about this. Forget it all. Of course, George didn't have a clue what Rudolph was talking about. All he knew was that Rudolph wanted to kill him, and that he showed no trace of hesitation. His image of Rudolph as the ideal cool, joke-loving adult didn't match up with the man standing in front of him, holding a gun. Well, maybe this feels wrong because it fits him too well. He has that same smile, as though he's about to tell some hilarious joke. But he's pointing a gun at me. Why would that kind, funny Uncle Rudolph do this? It made him feel unimaginably sad, and tears flowed from his eyes. Oh, Uncle Rudolph, I admired you so much. Haven't I always told you, George-kun? Make sure you don't end up as an adult like me. Now you see why. In the next world, make learning how to spot villains your first priority. I know you can do it. After all, it's just another kind of studying. He bit down the pain in his side. With the last of his strength, George threw his whole body into a roundhouse kick. At the same time, fire spat from Rudolph's gun. The bullet pierced George's chest. George spun around as he fell amidst an outpouring of blood. He moaned wordlessly, clenching blood-stained teeth. A frigid gun was pressed harshly against his temple. So long. Go become a great man in the next world. Don't get blinded by money like me. I can't believe that my uncle would kill for money. You're so innocent. People can kill. Over money. The ruthless trigger forestalled any further questions. George's hands, which had been covering his wound, dropped lifelessly. Eva didn't do a very good job of protecting him, man. Just too late, I guess. When Rudolph saw the last glimmer of life leave him, he sighed deeply and looked tired. That was easier than I thought. Rudolph looked up into the dark, rainy sky, the raindrops hitting him full in the face, and laughed with an indescribable expression, his tongue hanging out. I thought my conscience would bug me more. Now that it's over, it was pretty easy. Rudolph laughed. This was probably just the thing Kyrie had hoped for. It had taken considerable effort to kill George. He may have been merciless, but the last traces of a conscience in Rudolph's heart had probably slowed him down. However, now that he had killed someone with his own hands, a turning point that few people ever reach, Rudolph had finally awakened. No, he finally understood. It's just like squeezing dough out of a bunch of morons. The same old game of musical chairs. If there's a pile of money in front of you, the first one to reach it wins. The slow ones just get kicked down to hell. Haven't I driven dozens of poor fools into debt with my earlier swindles? Several of those probably ended up bankrupt, and some of those might have hanged themselves. I always laughed like it was none of my business. And that's all there is to it. The only difference now is that for the first time, I've dealt the final blow with my own hands. Thanks, Kyrie. You're always the best at cutting away my naivety. Rudolph's evil laugh rang out. The laugh was so purely evil, it was almost soothing. Hypocritical evil that still contains some pangs of conscience is far more repulsive to behold. If a man's committed to doing great evil anyway, how much more pleasant and gallant it is when he's wholly devoted to his goal. In that sense, Rudolph's evil smile and laugh were pleasant and gallant indeed. Which means, the brutal, bloody stage of the dining hall must have been soothing as well. Is he going to go on to Battler and Maria now? Or is it already happening? A clang, a thud, a crack, a squish. A strange mixture of these sounds kept repeating over and over at the same tempo. Each time a red splash landed on the tablecloth dangling nearby. Jessica-chan, can you hear me? I was carrying on with her. Kyrie asked this with the sort of smile any aunt might make to her niece. However, Jessica didn't answer. There was nothing particularly surprising about this. After all, by now, her nose had been broken, her eyes had been smashed, her teeth had been knocked out. Not only her nose, but her entire face was now hardly recognisable as a face, just a lump of bloody flesh. Kyrie finally stopped her task of repeatedly smashing Jessica's face with the stock of her gun. Still sitting on top of Jessica, she tossed her gun to the side, pulled a compact out of her pocket, and looked at her own face in the mirror. Then finally, she realised that her face was covered by speckles of fresh blood. How terrible. These clothes will have to go too. With a muffled laugh, Kyrie shakily rose to her feet. Jessica wasn't moving anymore. She'd been convulsing a bit until a second ago, but now she was as still as stone. Smashing a woman's face is nothing new to your aunt, okay? Sorry about that. If you hadn't resisted, I could have given you a much cleaner death. Kyrie pulled the tablecloth off and used it like a towel to wipe the blood from all over her body. However, instead of taking the blood off, it just smeared it around, and did nothing to remove the stench of blood and death that covered her. When she got tired of rubbing the tablecloth against the blood, Kyrie walked over to the extension line telephone in the corner of the room. Then she dialed the number for the cousin room in the guest house. Hello, it's me. It's your turn now, Battler-kun. Go to the spot in front of the chapel, please. Yes, that's right. I haven't been given any instructions from Maria-chan. Have her wait there. Yes, keep your wits about you. I'm rooting for you to be chosen as a successor, Battler-kun. With the same smile as usual, and the partly wiped splashes of blood still covering her face, Kyrie finished her call to Battler. When she set down the receiver, there was a small knock, and Rudolph came back into the room. Hey, you look like shit. Jessica-chan has better reflexes than I give her credit for. I didn't think she'd be able to fight back from a situation like that. It's a bit of a shame she had to end up looking like this. What a waste of a good Natsui-esque woman. And how about your end? Did he give you much trouble? No problems there. Plain and simple. When Kirie heard Rudolph's instant response, she favoured him with an evil smile. Yes, the man she loved was the sort who could do it if he tried, without letting cheap emotions get in the way. I love you, Rudolph-san. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's hard to imagine an easier job to net you 1 billion yen. It's like Dad always said. In the life of every man, there comes one day when he has to be willing to kill. In other words, always be determined to survive, even if you have to kill to do it. That's my favourite line of his. What's next? My rifle is hungry for blood. You got a big job coming up. Convincing Battler-kun. That's right. That'll be a pain. Hope I don't have to end it by pulling the trigger. I've really enjoyed life as a 3-person family with Angie. But if you really want Battler-kun to join in on that, give it your best. Sure. I'll make sure we don't have any complaints from him. Don't worry, I've worked out a scenario to trick him good. Good luck. Even I hope that Angie's beloved big brother doesn't get caught up in the explosion accident. I know. Then I'll head back to the chapel. Rudolph-san? What? If you can't convince Battler-kun... I know. If that happens, bang. Battler-kun's independent enough that he left the family out of protest when I married you, remember? If you can only convince him halfway, and if things get nasty later on, he'll prove fatal to us. I know. Believe in me. And if I decide that Battler-kun's growing suspicious, I'll kill him myself. He's not my kid after all. Yeah, I know. So promise me one thing, Kirie. What's that? If I can trick Battler and the 3 of us make it off the island, if that happens, what? Never say that Battler isn't your kid again. After all, you're his mother. Please. Sure, I promise. Kirie shrugged and answered as she loaded bullets. You go to the chapel. I'll wait until Battler-kun has left and then clean up everything inside the guest house. You sure you'll be okay doing that alone? That's my line. Oh, I was expecting that to be the breakpoint. Battler left the guest house under an umbrella. He had been called to the area in front of the chapel, just like George had been. Not even 30 minutes had passed since the time George and Jessica had been called out. Apparently this test didn't last too long. Damn geezer. First you never come out, not even for lunch, and then you show up in the middle of the night with a test. I'll bet living as a shut-in got the sense of day and night all backwards. Complaining all the way, Battler strolled off into the rain. Almost immediately, he was swallowed up by the darkness of the rose garden and passed out of sight. And then, Kirie could be seen coming out from the darkness of the rose garden. Her right hand held a gun, her left an umbrella. Oh, she's going. Her inner pocket contained the master key ring she had stolen from Goda. Her right pocket had a handful of bullets. Her left had a knife she had taken from the kitchen. She was a carefully and perfectly outfitted murderer. Another bolt of lightning struck down from the swirling skies. It lit up only half of Kirie's face. Her cheek was still covered with Jessica's blood. Under the eaves, Kirie folded up her umbrella, smiled, and spoke to no one. Hey everyone, I'm home. Rudolph could be seen under the eaves of the chapel. He had hidden his gun in the nearby shadows and was now smoking a cigarette. Should be easy to trick that dimwit. And if it doesn't work, that's just too bad. He glanced over at the place he had stowed his gun. The cigarette smoke began to pleasantly cloud his mind. Battler isn't a kid anymore. He's an adult who can choose his path through life as he pleases. When animals grow up, it's normal for them to form a group and go on a journey. Humans are the only ones that keep treating their young like kids, even after they get big. If I'd known it had come to this, I never would have begged for you to come back. I regret dragging you back into the family. He puffed out those words, along with the smoke. When Battler came, he didn't intend to voice those regrets of his. Rudolph was already determined to play the part of the evil murderer who kills for money. He's still not here. What's taking him so long? At that moment he heard the sound of someone stepping on gravel. He looked up, thinking that Battler had finally arrived, but the sound had come from the direction opposite of the mansion. Eva. Rudolph, how could you do that to my husband? Aniki, so you're alive? Sorry that I'm alive, too bad, but my husband wasn't so lucky. How could you? How could you? With a face obscured by anger and tears, Eva slowly walked closer, her gun raised. Her husband had been killed right in front of her. She probably wouldn't even hesitate. Realizing that a gun, quivering with anger, was pointing right at his chest, Rudolph backed away. As he pretended to retreat, he approached the gun he had hidden in the shadows. Calm down, Aniki. Put the gun down. I never wanted that to happen. Everything happened so fast, there was nothing I could do. How can you tell such half-baked lies? As Eva had said, it really had been a half-baked, pointless thing to say. Rudolph would have said anything if he thought it would calm Eva's emotions before she pulled the trigger, which she looked capable of doing at any moment now. Then Rudolph's foot came in contact with his gun. Let's just talk this over. George-kun should be here soon. Oh. Hey George-kun, we're over here. Rudolph waved as though George was coming from behind Eva. Let Eva's attention turn in that direction. That idiot. My simple big sister has always been a sucker. Die. Gunfire. Then a bit later, the sound of something heavier than rain dropping onto the cobblestone. Ah. Rudolph, I've always been able to see through your tricks. The bullet Eva fired went straight into Rudolph's chest. The bullet Rudolph fired at Eva missed, landing near her feet. Guess I was right. This gun does shoot low. He dropped the gun into a puddle with a splash, staggered backwards, and leaned against the wall of the chapel. Nah, that's not it. All good western ends with the bad guy's bullet missing. Eva dashed up to him, kicked away the gun that had fallen into a puddle, and grabbed Rudolph by the collar. What about George? Where is he? I won't let you kill him. Sorry, Aniki. Already got him. Liar. Did it in the bushes over there. Go take a look. You'll see soon. Rudolph? You. Eva, who claimed to know all of her little brother's tricks, also knew that Rudolph's final words as his consciousness began to fade thanks to the bullet wound were not a lie. How could you, George? How could you? George! George! An empty shell casing bounced off the cobblestone. The furious gun barrel was pressed against Rudolph's forehead. Go ahead and shoot. I doubt that'll bring you much peace, though. It'll do the job by the seams of it. A bolt of lightning turned everything white. However, the wall of the chapel was stained blood red. A red splash, like a crushed tomato, came out from the back of Rudolph's head and covered the wall. Then, leaving a red trail behind him, Rudolph sagged back downwards, sat on the ground and fell over. George! 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 Eva dashed off towards the bushes. She found George's corpse almost immediately, screamed, and broke down sobbing. Rudolph's bloody corpse was exposed to the rain that ran down off the eaves. His eyes were still wide open. A fist-sized, flesh-covered hole was open in the back of his head, and his insides were exposed to the open air. Inside was a mixed jelly of flesh, brains, and spinal fluid. That goop, which looked like someone had mixed it up with a spoon, dripped from his eyes, nose, ears, mouth, and the hole in his head. Dad, Dad. Angie clutched at her head, sobbing and moaning. Her father had dirtied his hands with murder over money, and on top of that, he had faced such a cruel end, and Angie had been forced to see his corpse. It was hard to imagine a more painful experience for her daughter to go through. I'm totally fed up with this. It's completely meaningless. Berncastle-san, I know you're here somewhere. Please make this game stop. There's no point to it. As if in answer to that yell, a black shadow appeared a few seats in front of them. Oh, she's back. Or perhaps she was sitting there the whole time. Maybe we just couldn't see her until we were aware of her. It was, without a doubt, the back of Berncastle's head. Berncastle-san. Pipe down back there. Can't you watch the show quietly? The witch turned around with bored eyes, as though the two people yelling were the strange ones. Please stop this. We realise that this is the sealed Catbox world of October 4th and 5th. The games are like messages, or maybe more like a roundabout love letter. A single message can be conveyed over several games. But now we understand. We know that endless tales can seep out of the sealed 2-day Catbox. And beyond that, I even know the culprit and the motive. That's already been revealed, and it doesn't even have anything to do with this game. We both know the answer, that this is a Catbox tale. So there shouldn't be any need for any further games. If this is supposed to be a game between you and us, Then we already know the answer. The game should be over. Oh, just shut up already. Didn't you hear Byrne tell you to be quiet? Another shadow appeared in the next seat over, turned around, and scolded the pair. There's a point. If you just watch, you'll see it. You the game master? Not at all. Then who is it? Could it be clear? If you watch, you'll see. Not much longer now. The tragedy has already reached its climax. Who'll survive, I wonder? Berncastle isn't the game master? Then who is? Could Clay have created this cruel tale? Or are there even more witches playing around with this cat box? Jesus, we're still going. I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting essentially another arc in one go, right? A whole story. Back to Maria now, is it? The guest house was wrapped in silence. There were no sounds, no trace of anyone's presence, no breathing from anyone alive. There wasn't anything to be heard anymore. If anything could be heard, it was the sound of the murderer's feet stepping across the floor. Kyrie slowly passed through the lounge. In her right hand was a gun. In her left hand was a knife. The knife was stained with blood, and some was still dripping from the tip, leaving behind red tracks like a demon's footprints. Her hands were filled with tools of blood, or of murder, so she wasn't capable of doing anything but murder. In that sense, at that moment, she was clearly and purely a murderer. The murderer went to the entrance hall, and then, only after reaching the front door, looked down to see the two blood-stained hands of a killer. Those hands gripped the tools of death that had performed a cruel massacre. Then at last the murderer realised that it wouldn't even be possible to open the door like this, and tossed aside the knife. Then the murderer reached out to the door, turned around calmly, and spoke. Sorry everyone, but don't worry. A few days later the newspapers will be talking about an unfortunate accident, and I'm sure the news shows, the papers and rumour mongers everywhere will be sure that you spent your time in happy ignorance until the instant of the accident. In other words, you'll have had a good time until midnight on October 5th. So said the one who had stained that bloody guest house red. At this hour, the cousins are all staying up late, playing around, and the servants who have to get up early are all snoring. The ones on a late shift are probably filling in the log or taking a break about now. That's how it is. From where I am now, I can hear laughter coming from the cousin room. Humans outside the cat box would probably never understand what Kyrie was saying. Only she, shut inside the cat box of the explosion accident, could know what it really meant. Outside, the rain poured down heavily. Kyrie almost picked up an umbrella, but then stopped suddenly, as if she just thought of something. Then she started walking out into the rain, not caring at all whether she got wet or not. Did the murderer not want an umbrella to get in the way of her gun? Or was she hoping that the rain could act as a shower to get the blood off her? Kyrie stopped walking, as though something unexpected had caught her attention. However, this time, there was no whim of hers. How could you? Kill my husband. Oh, even Isan. That's surprising. How could I have missed you from this distance? I'm just as surprised. I didn't think I'd survive. You came here from the underground stairway behind the chapel, right? In that case... That's right. I bumped into Rudolph in front of the chapel. And how's he doing? Oh, just wonderful. We managed to have a friendly sibling chat for the first time in a while. I see. He's such a show-off, but so unreliable in a tight spot. Looks like he can't do anything without me after all. After that short exchange of words, Kyrie already knew that Rudolph had been killed. However, no trace of urgency or panic rose to her face. She just closed her eyes with her usual unconcerned expression, and when she opened them again, she had regained her composed smile. Thank you. I'm grateful. This way, I really can have everything to myself. What's that blood on your clothes? You just came out of the guest house, didn't you? Don't tell me. Yes, that's right. I'm right in the middle of a murder case at the moment. You killed them? All of them? Even Maria-chan? There's no need to let them live until morning. When morning came, there would be an uproar, and that could be a pain. They might have used the radio to contact someone off the island and gotten help. So this was clearly the optimal move to make. If you spin the chessboard around and look at it that way, right? Monster. I can't believe you could be so blinded by greed that you'd commit murder. You weren't doing so bad yourself. That was an accident. I didn't mean to kill them. Unlike you. No, just like me. If that gun hadn't gone off, you would have kept on arguing and jumping at each other. Then the rest of you would have eventually reached the same answer as me, just a few steps slower. Not a murderer. Not true. You're just a murderer who didn't get a chance. You've just been saved by that accidental discharge. If it weren't for that bit of good luck, and if I hadn't moved before you did, then you would have played the same role I'm playing now. That fact won't go away, no matter how much you try to deny it. It's the truth of a different future. Don't try and confuse me. However, on the inside, Eva understood. Back then she had probably been saved by that accidental discharge by a coincidence. If the argument had continued much longer, she would surely have grown a desire to kill Kraus and the others, might even have carried it out. She simply could not deny the existence of that demon deep within her heart. Only the theatre goers knew. They knew that she could become a killer in another world. Kyrie, who didn't have the theatre going ability, I knew this fact as well. Maybe there really was something extraordinary about her after all. So for some time, Eva could only grind her teeth in silence, still pointing her gun. I don't understand. You're also a mother. You felt the pain of giving birth to your own child. How can you not know how precious a life is? How are you capable of doing all this? That's the thing about kids. If you just sleep around, they get made all by themselves. That's not what I'm talking about. They say that children are bonds, right? What? Children are bonds used to tie you to your husband. She was a bond to make Rudolf-san acknowledge me, so I could take them back from that woman. But you've killed Rudolf-san now. You understand what that means, right? What do you mean I understand? Just that right now, I'm the wife of no man, and I have no intention of being a mother. I am me, Kyrie. Now that Rudolf-san's dead, I'm not even a Shuramaya anymore. I live to benefit me. Right, Rudolf is dead, so maybe you aren't a wife anymore. But you still have Angie-chan, don't you? You're still a mother, aren't you? Didn't you hear what I just said about bonds? Now that Rudolf-san's gone, Angie is of no use to me. Yeah, you. How can any mother say that about her own daughter? Eva Nissan, let's put a stop to this. We can be honest here. Honest? Did either of us marry because we wanted children? We didn't, right? We married because we wanted to live with the man we loved. And once you've married, you never want to let that man go for the rest of your life, correct? Children are just weapons to be used for that goal. I'd never have children for a reason like that. But people can have children for just that reason. Kyrie kept on speaking emotionlessly, ignoring the falling rain. Her relaxed smile didn't falter for an instant. Angie was just a chain I used to tie Rudolf-san to me. Or you could call her a chess piece, someone to play the role of the kid in our family drama. To me, Angie was nothing more than a piece, necessary so that I could act the part of the good mother in front of Rudolf-san. You. Could you say that to Angie-chan's face? That would be just a bit too sad, so I won't say it to her directly. I plan to write her a letter asking her to forgive her bad mother, then vanish from her life. You've seen what Rosa-san and Maria-chan are like, right? Now that Rudolf-san is gone, Angie's just a chain tying me down. I'll go back to being just Kyrie and enjoy the rest of my life at my leisure. A new challenge and a new life. And maybe even a new love. And you call yourself human. You call yourself Angie-chan's mother. Who gives a damn about Angie? I've never liked that little brat. How can you? You've been released from your family drama too, haven't you? Let's sing the praises of a woman's freedom. You should thank me for having George Gunn killed for you too. You monster. Ooh, who's gonna die? I think the two yells and the sound of gunfire thundered across the dark rose garden. I mean, I get the impression because in every other arc, like, or most other arcs, Eva has survived, right? Like in the canon sort of after event sort of thing. Slowly Eva fell backwards. Oh, maybe not this time then. Then she landed in a puddle, scattering countless drops of water. Across from her, Kyrie spun around as though dancing. Beautiful black rose petals scattered around her. The petals were dark, dark red. As they sprayed from her throat, she spun around in a circle and slowly crumpled. Oh. Bye-bye, Kyrie. Then she fell to the ground, sending muddy water flying. The two women had shot and fallen. However, when the thunder roared, only Eva sat back up. There you go, I thought she'd survive. Eva hadn't been shot. Kyrie's intensity had made her fall backwards, but the bullet had once again slipped right past her. Eva cursed her good luck. Why couldn't this luck have saved her husband or her son? Die there, for Angie Chan's sake as well. You'll be killed in the explosion accident. Until the moment of your death, you worried about the daughter you left behind. Yes, I'll write that into the lid of the cat box. When Kyrie heard this, blood dripped from her grinning mouth and she seemed to say something in response. However, her voice came out only as globs of blood from the hole in her throat, not words. Mom. Mom. It's a lie. It's all a lie. Angie, please calm down. This is just a game. That couldn't possibly be what your mother truly feels. It's just something that the game master made Aunt Kyrie's piece say. But saying that did nothing to calm Angie's sobs. I don't blame her. Even if she knows it's just a game, she's been forced to see not only her mother's death, but also her mother announcing that she was the culprit of a mass murder who didn't even love her own daughter. Anyone would sob after hearing that. Berncastle-san, enough of this. I don't care who the game master is. Stop this pointless game right now. When Leon yelled this, the theatre suddenly went pitch black, swallowed in darkness. However, that wasn't enough to shock Leon. Leon continued to yell Berncastle's name into the darkness, telling the witch to stop this game. Then a single beam of light shone down upon the stage. There was Claire, the one who had appeared for just a second right before this cruel game began. Claire, so you were the game master after all? I don't get it. Why? Claire didn't answer. In fact, it looked as though she hadn't even heard. Her eyes were blank, and you couldn't tell what she was looking at. In fact, she was even forgetting to blink. She looked just like a doll. Then another beam of light lit up the side of the stage. Beneath that light stood Berncastle. At the same moment, though there appeared to be no one in the audience, a thunderous applause rang out. Berncastle raised her right hand in response to the applause. She kept doing so until it died down. Berncastle-san, so you were the master of this game after all? Leon, how many times do I have to tell you that I'm not the game master? Then are you saying it's Claire? That's impossible. Yep, of course it's impossible. After all, Claire died. We were just conducting her funeral. Did you forget that? Then just who is standing there? A corpse. She's not a mannequin, so of course she still has her insides. She's hiding it under a beautiful exterior, but she's actually packed full of guts. When Berncastle raised her right hand, a light fell on it, and a black shining scythe appeared there. It was a cold, merciless and cruel object, like something a classic Grim Reaper might hold. What are you planning to do? When they're alive, you can enjoy watching them struggle. When they're dead, you can enjoy tearing out their guts. Tales are things you get to enjoy twice. That's what it means to be a witch of theatre going. Berncastle pressed the blade of her Reaper's scythe against Claire's stomach, and slowly slid it across. Then along the line she traced, Claire's dress was sliced open. It was now clear that the scythe she held was not a fake one for theatrical use, and it was clear just what she planned to do next that made her cruel smile so fitting. Angie, can you hear me? I hear you. You tear me to bits, make me read. What's next? You show me this worst possible tale to hurt me even more? Is this fun for you? Yeah, I'll bet it is. I had a blast too. You think that I'd give up after that? You think I'll sit around crying any longer because of that disgusting game of yours? Both you and Leon seem to have the wrong idea. I'm not the game master. This tale is not one that I created. Then that woman in the dress is the game master? No, she isn't. That can't be. Then who is the game master? Who wove this disgusting tale? You still don't understand. What don't we understand? Angie, you gambled everything on a faint chance of a miracle, throwing yourself forward. I invited you to October 4th and 5th of 1986 out of respect for your courage. What was your goal? To take your family back. That would be a very difficult thing, and without the blessing of a miracle, a thoroughly impossible one. You were prepared for that, weren't you? Yes, I'm prepared. And I still haven't given up on Oni-chan, Mom and Dad. Whether you give up or not is your choice. That's your own game after all. I won't support you, and I won't even watch. I've already enjoyed my fill of games that use the piece you are, so I have no need for you any longer. Glad to hear it. Then why am I here? Aren't you the one who invited me? Yes, that's right. I invited you here. To thank you for entertaining me for a while as my piece. To thank me? So is this how witches show gratitude? Sure, this has been loads of fun, you beast. How could you make this kind of game, and do that to Dad and Mom? Angie, you made a wish, hoping to take your family back. However, you also made another wish. Remember? No, I don't. You wanted to know what happened on that day. What happened on Rokkenjima on October 4th and 5th, 1986? Didn't Angie leave on her journey with Amakusa because she longed to answer that question? That's right. So what's your point? You don't mean... Leon realised what Burncastle was getting at. Realised and was unable to say any more. The Game Master is neither Burncastle nor Clay. Then who is it? That's the wrong question. There is no Game Master. That could mean only one thing. Angie, you still don't understand? What? This is the truth. The insides of the cat box of October 4th and 5th, 1986. Afterwards, Eva survived the explosion by escaping to Kurodorion. And since she never spoke of the inside of the cat box, no matter how much she wanted to know, that truth was shut within the cat box for all eternity. So this is the truth at the end of it all. That's why it's taken so long on the tea party. What are you saying? Only Eva returned alive. Even though the police claimed it was an accident, the public didn't believe it. Then she took over her husband's company, and the harder she worked to make it more and more successful, the more enemies she made. A public image of her as a great queen of conspiracy grew stronger and stronger. I'm sure she wanted to tell people about the truth. That truth that no one would ever believe, without proof. Bit by bit, Eva's heart began to snap. You rejected Eva, so she rejected you in turn. The relationship between the last two members of your family was strained to the limit. Each time she compared you with her beloved son, she grew more and more twisted and broken. Then a strange message bottle was picked up and became a topic for conversation. It contained a bizarre story, one that told of a mysterious serial murder connected to Rokkenjima's gold. Everyone rejected the explosion accident theory and started to think up conspiracy theories. Some of those theories named Eva as the culprit, which tormented her even more. However, Eva used even that to build up the cat box, and until the moment of her death, she protected it. She protected the lock that held the cat box shut. So no human would ever reach the truth inside the cat box. Not unless those witches who crossed the sea of fragments opened the lock. This is the truth. You're lying. You're lying. Lying! If this really is the truth, you should be able to say so in red. There's no way you can, of course there isn't. Angie. Angie, calm down. Oh. Angie writhed with such strength that the chains on her arms and legs looked like they might snap. All over her body, a red, gooey liquid started to seep out. It was as though cracks had opened up all over her blood, and blood was leaking out of all of them. Whoa. What's that? You want me to announce it clearly with the red truth? Then I'll say it just for you. That this is all truth. No. Angie's yell covered up Byrne's red truth. Stupid kid. If only you hadn't made me say that, you could have shut it up inside the cat box. But you just had to ask, right? I knew you would, of course. And I so wanted to see you scream like that. A lovely expression like that should keep me laughing for about 100 years. Go back to being scrap meat. Mom, Dad, it's a lie, right? Lies, lies. Angie. Angie? As Angie held her head and screamed, the blood dripping from her finally grew so thick that it started scattering all over the place. Then bit by bit, her body began to melt. No, to fall apart. Then bits of her began to pile up on the chair, until she was nothing but a pile of guts and scraps. That's the end of Angie again. Is the truth really that sacred? How absurd, how foolish. Why can't humans control their own truth? They stupidly search for the truth like that's all that matters, and when they finally find it and can't stand it, they turn themselves into scrap meat. Are you watching, Clay? You wanted to hide this truth too, didn't you? For fun, you wrote several Catbox tales and planned to seal them in message bottles like the end of a mystery novel you loved. Then you threw them into the sea. to save those who would suffer if they knew this truth. You sealed everything in a cat box, and Eva provided the lock. And I've sliced that box open for you. All that effort you spent to hide it has gone to waste. I've exposed all the truth you hid with your death. Is that what you've been after? You did all this just to mock Claire's death? And then you showed it to Angie to make her suffer? You really were an evil witch after all. I've been a witch the whole time. A traveller whose only goal is to escape boredom. Care for it and love it while it's alive, then eat the guts when it's dead. That's how witches live. I cannot forgive you for what you've done. You've hurt Angie and humiliated Claire, the person I would become in another world. I won't forgive you. Leon, you're still Claire's hope, even after her death. From the moment Claire got thrown off that cliff, her fate was already sealed. I'm sure she felt a little bit of salvation to know that another her lives in happiness in another world. That's right. I'm her salvation, so I must live life to the fullest for the both of us. Leon, let me show you just a bit more of this tale of the truth. I'm not interested. No, it'll be very interesting. After the duel between Eva and Kyrie, the guest house is wrapped in silence. Let me invite you to the parlour at that point in time. The parlour? The one in the mansion? Berncastle snapped her fingers and the scene of the mansion's parlour unfolded before them. In the cruel tale they had just been shown, the parlour hadn't been particularly important. Jessica had been summoned to the parlour, but she was then immediately led to the dining hall and killed there. So there hadn't been anything to see in the parlour. And in fact there was nothing to see in the parlour now appearing before Leon. Just what's supposed to be here. As you can see, there's nothing here. But watch. I'm about to show you something interesting. If you call it interesting, that's a sure sign that it isn't. Go on, take a look. It's right there. Right in that corner. Berncastle was pointing at nothing more than a corner of the room. There's nothing there. She had told Leon to look there, so the latter was expecting something terrible to be there. But there really was nothing there at all. That's right, there's nothing there. At least not in this world. But what if we peek into the next fragment over? On the white blank wall, bit by bit, a splash of blood seeped into view. Then right there, a corpse appeared. But that couldn't be. This is... me? It was Leon, lying dead against the wall. Ashurmaya Leon's corpse lay there exposed. What's going on here? Why am I here? This is supposed to be Claire's world, not mine. Claire and I can't exist at the same time, right? Yes, that's right. That's because I just switched worlds, switched fragments. Switched to your world, that is. I don't understand. It's very simple. They both end the same way. I don't get it. Why should I be dead here? In your world. On October 4th, 1986, Beatrice's funeral was held just before the family conference. Yes, I know that. And for me that happened today, a short while ago. I wonder what will happen between that time and late that night. Nothing at all. The cousins will all play together and the whole family will have dinner together. Then comes the family conference after night falls. You were going to succeed the headship when you turned 20, right? Was the entire family satisfied with that, I wonder? I don't know if they were satisfied, but the decision had been made. The head made it himself. Looks like even you don't really believe they were satisfied. That's it right there. Kinzo adored you more than anything, so he tried to make an exception and have you succeed the headship directly. Of course his children wouldn't have been happy with that. The siblings objected to having Leon succeed the headship. Even Kraus joined in, saying that Leon was still too young. Then on the night of the family conference, Kinzo tried proposing a difficult riddle. Could it be? That's right. The riddle of the epitaph. As you can tell by the mechanism set into the chapel, Kinzo thought up the epitaph trick near the beginning when the mansion on Rokkanjima was being built. He had the romantic idea of somebody using it as a test to select a successor, someday using it. Kinzo decided to present that riddle at the family conference. Did he plan to give the position of successor to the person who solved it? Or did he promise to reconsider Leon's position as the successor if it was solved? Either way, Kinzo was confident. He was confident that no one would be able to solve this tough riddle, which he had created himself. After that, everything happened exactly like the truth you just saw. The siblings solved it right away and there was a quarrel over the pile of gold. Then Kiria and Rudolph decided to prevent any chance of the crime being discovered the next morning and an outcry being raised by committing murder late that night. They used the phone to call the kids out from the cousin room one by one, then killed them. As the first of the cousins, you were the first to be called out. Then Kiria shot you dead right here in the parlour. No, that's not quite right. You're the Jeremiah Leon from the early evening of October 4th, 1986. So I'll say it this way. Tonight, Kiria will shoot you dead in the parlour. That's insane. That's right, probably. Probability. Just like Leon can be born from Claire thanks to a rare miracle. Aunt Kiria only commits murder with a tiny probability, close to 0. That must be it. Aren't you the witch who specialises in finding extremely improbable worlds? That's correct. I had to find one fragment out of a lot in order to discover the miracle that is you. However, it was very, very easy to find this result for your world. After all, probability isn't a factor. I'm a witch who can find any miracle, no matter how unlikely it is. But I can't find things that don't exist. If the Witch of Certainty really guarantees that something is certain, even I can't win against her. But then, I'm... With a very small probability, you live in the world where you're Claire, get toyed with by an inescapable fate, and reach a tragic end. And with a 1 out of 2,578,917 probability, you live as a Jeremiah Leon, and are killed by Kiria tonight. In other words, your fate, no, the fate that two of you share, traps you in an inescapable dead end, a hell of fate, with a 2,578,917 out of, 100% probability. To put it another way, it's a certain fate, with absolutely no chance for a miracle. Sucks for you, Claire. Or should I say, Beatrice? Just when a bright light seemed to turn the world white, the scene suddenly changed back to the theatre. On the stage, Berncastle's Reaper scythe slid across Claire's stomach as the latter stood up absolutely still. A red line was drawn across the white skin, exposed now that the dress had been cut and black blood began to seep out. Beatrice, trapped in that inescapable, certain, locked-away pair of days. You became a witch who could give birth to endless possibilities within that 2-day cat box. In exchange, it was absolutely certain that you would not be saved or rewarded. However, you had a dream. You dreamed of a Jeremiah Leon. You consoled yourself with the thought of a miracle world where you could have lived in happiness without ever becoming Claire. I had to work hard to find Leon. Just as Beto dreamed, Leon's existence is a true miracle, and at the end of your funeral, I wanted to show you. To show you that, even with that miracle, you couldn't have escaped from tragedy. Through the small crack between the bars of the jail that imprisoned her, the witch called Beatrice dreamed of a world where she might have been happy. However, the space she could see through that crack in the bars was just another part of the same jail. The more I hear, the less I understand about you. Why would you do something like this? I lost the game to Beatrice, so I wanted to get back at her. Yeah, now I feel a lot better about losing that game. Hey Beto, you watching? Can you see this? And you remember? Remember when I promised you that a miracle wouldn't occur with certainty? So Leon, allow me to return you to your world right before Beto's eyes. It looks like the theatre-going witches are all sick and tired of those happy family get-together scenes. So I'll send you to the moment just before Kiria shoots you. Then I'll make Beto watch that moment. Die, scum Leon. The last hope of that scum Beto. Berncastle raised her Reaper scythe, swung it down with gusto and plunged it deep into Claire's stomach. Did you think you'd get an easy death? But humiliating and tearing out a corpse's guts is my speciality. She took the blade end of the scythe and heartlessly, ruthlessly, brutally raised it up into the air. Along a vertical line from Claire's stomach to her chest, the blade cut deeply, slicing Claire open. The red-black insides jutted out, then burst like a dam break-in, covering the world with dark red entrails. Steal the Italians' gold, you say? You coward, Jeremiah, and you call yourself a soldier of the Empire? Father? I do love and respect you, Father, but your feelings are something Why? Why did you save me? Why didn't you let me die? Because of that terrible injury, I've been forced to live in a body like this. I never wanted to live in a body like this. This body that isn't even capable of love. What's the point in living like that? This isn't a human's life. It's like being furniture. That's right, I'm furniture. Furniture. Why didn't you let me die back then? When I came to, I was in the parlour of the mansion. When did I get here? I heard a sound behind me, then slowly turned around, and there... Sorry, please don't take this personally. I could see down the frigid barrel of the gun Aunt Kyrie was pointing. Then she slowly pulled the trigger. I could feel a razor-sharp wind pass through my body, like a knife slicing through butter. Prepared for death, and hoping to see my fate until the end, I slowly opened my eyes. The world had been cut in two. Kyrie was frozen in place like a statue, still pointing her gun with a cold smile on her face, and had been cut in half at an angle, the top part of it slowly sliding off to the side. No, that wasn't quite right. That wasn't right at all. It wasn't just Kyrie. The whole world had been sliced in half at an angle, and was slowly sliding off to one side. Then immediately after fissures seemed to appear across the world, it shattered. Oh, Will. You. When you own a cat, you tend to pick up their habits. Do you? He pointed at Berncastle with the tip of the pitch-black sword that had sliced the world, glaring at her. What's this? You saying you came back here on a whim? There was no way you'd end things on a happy note. Do you really hate Beatrice so much? You think I'd let her win and get away? I have to pay her back in full for the humiliation she caused me. When I hold a grudge, a mere century isn't long enough for me to forget it. You're a gloomy person. Come on, you mustn't neglect my heart. You okay, Leon? Hey, what's wrong? Leon had suddenly doubled over, groaning. My chest hurts. It's... Will roughly grabbed the hand that was pressed against Leon's chest and tore it away. Blood was seeping out from where Leon's hand had been. It was the place that a bullet would have entered if Kyrie had shot Leon. Looks like Leon's body is almost ready to accept its fate. Leon, hang in there. Damn these chains. When Will tried to pick Leon's body up, he finally noticed the chains attached to each wrist and ankle. What's this? You trying to take that kid and escape? I won't let you. I'm about to let everyone watch as Leon coughs up blood, despairing at the fact that there's no hope in any of the many worlds, before finally dying in agony. Leon isn't a show. Will swung his pitch-black sword and destroyed the chains binding Leon. The chains and shackles shattered into little bits like glass, then vanished. You intend to get in the way of my fun? You aren't God. All you can do is sneer at fate. Leon's fate is going to be decided by Leon. You can't treat a human's fate like a toy. You've got guts, saying that to the great Berncastle, Witch of the Senate. I have no more use for you either, get it? You've shown that Beto's fantasy is a mystery and cut it to pieces. You've fulfilled your role. I would have let you be, if only you just left quietly. Now that you've strolled back in here, you can hardly complain if I make you my plaything. Come to me, my cute kitties. Scratch them up and tear off their skin. Peel them like grapes. When Berncastle clapped her hands twice, countless pairs of glaring jewels appeared all around Will and Leon. They were clearly cat eyes, but the way the drool hung from their mouths looked far more terrifying than any cat. Will? I'll handle this. Trimming kitty nails is nothing new to me. The number of jewels surrounding them already reached into the thousands. Will pointed his sword in one direction after another, warding off the surrounding cats. Get a grip, Leon. You haven't been shot. Don't acknowledge that you have been. Know that you're going to be shot. Leon tried to fight an incredible tearing pain. No, it was a fight against the promised future that Berncastle had shown. However, the stake of that future, which the Witch of Miracles had guaranteed would contain no miracle, was firm and merciless. Bit by bit, and yet unceasingly, it continued to pierce into Leon's chest. Listen up. I'm going to break through their perimeter for just a second. When I do, you need to run with all you've got. It doesn't matter where. Just make sure you get far away from this place, and keep on running no matter what happens. I'll try, to the best of my ability. If I can't do it, please forgive me. If you can't do it, enough whining. I won't forgive you, neither will Claire. Did you forget that you're Claire's one in chance? If you give up, you're betraying all the other yous in countless worlds. So don't lose heart. Keep on struggling and struggling. Don't look for a miracle. Be one. Be a miracle? You're going to reach a happy future. Don't give up. Don't complain. Just you try complaining again. This time I'll pinch your ass. Okay. How very confident you are, telling this kid to be a miracle when you stand before the Witch of Miracles. Miracles are no more than fantasy. Grovel in this world that has been convicted as a mystery, and die horribly like a worm. The witches of theatre going are looking forward to watching it. You call that mystery? You think I'd ever accept a mystery without heart? Let the cat who wants to be made into a shamisen strike first. Ah, what a pain. Let's have all of you at once. I'm Willard H. Wright, SSVD's Head Inquisitor of Heresy. This will be the final time I draw my sword. Trash him, kitties. I like that. That's new. At once, all of the cat eyes opened wide, undulating and spinning in a spiral, then swallowed Will up. But Will and Leon weren't swallowed up. The cats that had flown in at them from all directions were now being launched away, like they were a balloon popping around the pair. Oh, not bad. I don't give a damn about the kitties. It's just the mama cat I care about. Berncastle, Witch of Miracles, it's about time someone trimmed your claws. Another flash of the black blade spun in a dark tornado and scattered the cats once more. Leon, realizing that this was the opening Will had planned, ran all out, still clutching at the heaving chest. Will, I'm running. Diana has a weak stomach. Make sure you only give her milk that's warm. Huh? By the time Leon asked Will to repeat what he had said, he had already leapt onto the stage and was now confronting Berncastle. Whoa, it's gonna be a fight with her. It was like the climax of a show. Loud cheers erupted from the pitch black audience seating. On either side of Claire, who lay with her insides exposed, stood Will with his pitch black sword and Berncastle with a scythe that could harvest miracles from fate. Kyrie and Rudolph are the culprits, and they massacred the people on the island. They called Leon out to the parlour, then shot Leon to death. Sorry, but I can't acknowledge this truth of yours as a mystery. This is all fantasy. Fantasy? You're calling it that to try and let Leon escape fate? By all means try. Rule number 1. It's forbidden to have a crime without all clues presented. Surely Will's black sword must have cut through Berncastle's body. However, it had no effect, like cutting the reflection of the moon on the water. What's this? What do you mean by clues? I won't accept your mystery with Kyrie and Rudolph as the culprits. You won't find clues showing that they're the culprits no matter which game you look at. Of course you won't. Even if they did exist at one point, the whole island blew up. Which means there aren't any clues. And that means this is no mystery. It's fantasy. Huh? It's impossible for an unprovable truth to become truth in the human world. In other words, even the actual truth cannot cross the boundary of a cat box. Aha. Are you trying to shut the truth inside the cat box? Is this how the mystery genre is supposed to fight? With a laugh like the howl of a wild animal, Berncastle carelessly tossed her scythe aside. Fighting itself is a waste of time. Get over here, scum. Try and cut me all you like. I'll listen to all you've got to say. The 20 wedges will pierce every part of your heartless mystery. Here it comes. And when you realise that you can't defeat me with those 20 wedges, you know what'll happen next, right? Come on, I'll play with you, if that's what you want. Ah. Oh! I didn't expect that to be where the credits went. Oh wow. So is that going to be the question mark part? Or is it going to be the Arc 8? I don't know how the whole visual novel is going to end, see. And I don't think they ever went back to Umineko. Like Higurashi, they are still making anime for now and again. They're still... They haven't too long ago brought out a new arc for Higurashi. I say new arc. Like last summer, I only noticed it on Steam recently, but last summer, a new arc of Higurashi came around on Steam. So, yeah, we will be getting to that, by the way. I thought we'd finished completely with our series, but we got another arc to do. That'll be fun. Getting back into that world. I love Higurashi, it's my favourite anime and all that, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, this arc, what did I think of it? It's very different. It gives a lot of answers and stuff, which is what you should get towards the end. So yeah, I'm happy. I was happy with it. Requiem of the Golden Witch. It was weird not seeing the Beatrice and the Battler that we know properly. We saw Beatrice's. We saw who she really was. And that was a good bit of explanation. But, you know. It's at the end of that. Is there going to be more after that credits bit? Yeah, there is. Trying to ignore an incredible pain in the chest, Leon kept on running and running without stopping. I dashed out of the theatre-going witches, then ran through an incomprehensible world of blackness. Before I knew it, I was running through a place that looked like a sea of stars. Or maybe the bottom of the ocean with stars scattered around. If I get careless for a second, I'll probably trip. No, if I get careless, I won't be able to tell if I'm running. Or just making running motions as I freefall, endlessly sinking deeper into the ocean of stars. I just kept on running, without any goal or target. I mustn't stop moving. I mustn't fall down here. If I fall, I'll crush the hope of the me's in countless worlds. There's a happy world that the Beatrices dreamed of, and I'm their last hope, the only one who can reach that world. Even though I understand this, the truth thrust in front of me by the witch who controls miracles, who says there can be no miracle, is cruelly gouging itself into my chest. Sorry, Will. My body's already... Then Leon finally succumbed to the fierce pain and fate and fell over. Leon's body was held roughly from behind and lifted up. Will, you okay? No, not really. Don't you give up. Didn't I tell you I'd pinch your ass? Sorry. I'm really sorry. But on that day in that place, I was fated to be killed. That's right. All humans are fated to die in the end. Does that mean their lives are meaningless? Of course not. What a person's life means, what it's worth, what it is, these are things each person decides for themselves, no matter what sort of fate is forced upon them. Don't accept it. Create your own world for yourself. Will, your left arm. Ah, right. Must have forgotten it. Where'd I leave that arm? It'd be a pain to go back and get it now. There were rips all over Will's body. Also, his left arm had been brutally torn off from the elbow, his clothes were in tatters, and he looked like a blood-stained scarecrow. Then Leon noticed. Though this place had once felt like a sea, filled with stars, both above and below them, those stars had now gathered together and were surrounding them. It was a huge, even number of stars, all glaring at the two of them. Will was holding Leon with one arm. He couldn't take his sword out. However, he didn't let go. He was determined to let Leon escape from here, to lead Leon towards the happy tale that the Beatrices had dreamed of. Behind the cats whose eyes glowed out of the empty darkness, the Queen of Cats who permitted no miracles appeared. Willard, put Leon down. If you do, I'll let you go. Go file a protest with the Great Court. You can put it up for debate. Will, I won't leave you behind. I need to tell you why I quit SSVD. Come to think of it, even I don't know that. Why'd you do it? It's because I got fed up with all those damn sob story mysteries. We'll survive and reach a happy ending. I'll show her. Beatrice died in despair, thinking that there were only bad endings. I'll show her that a happy ending can exist. That's why I'll never put you down. Will. You can take the rest of my left arm, Cats. I'll give you my legs too if you want them. But I'm not letting go of Leon here. I'll take Leon away from the bad ending you represent, even if I have to crawl my way out of here. You okay with this, Leon? Will's planning to die protecting you. You don't want that, right? Go ahead and tell him to leave you be and save himself. Will. Yeah. Please don't leave me here. I'll certainly survive. And so will you. That's the spirit. As he said this, Will held Leon tight. there you have it. We'll keep struggling on, Burncastle. We won't give up on the chance of a miracle. You're saying that? When the Witch of Miracles has promised with certainty that there will be no miracles? So long, you two. Go collect dust in the depths of oblivion, unable even to die and disappear. Come, my kitties. I won't order you to kill them. Just clean up the two pieces whose role has ended. 100 million, a trillion, 10 quadrillion cats all bared their fangs. In the starry sky of cat eyes, countless flesh-coloured mouths opened, exposing countless teeth. The world was wrapped in flesh and blood and fangs. Well, rest in pieces achievement. That was the tea party that just kept on giving, wasn't it? Bloody hell. Okay, so it's added the question mark part. So I'm going to end things off here. Next time, we'll be going on to that question mark. And hopefully it'll be shorter. I cross my fingers because that was so long. So, this has been Greeny XI. Hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again in a bit when we go for the question marks. See you in a bit, folks.